Hey guys, today I'll be explaining to you the trap of analyzing the contents of your imaginary world. Like you want to understand the contents. You even, let's say, document it. You write them every day. Like in today's world, I was an adventure. In a few years ago, I was this and that. And I've seen this highly encouraged in forums, which is not really a bad thing in itself, but it becomes a very, very dangerous thing because of two instances. The first instance is time. So let's say you spend 3 to 4 hours a day in the imaginary world. And then, because 3 to 4 hours a day, let's say 3 to 4 hours a day watching a movie, that's a very, very, very long script. To really, really put that into a piece of paper, it will take you something like 2 hours. So you've already spent 3 to 4 hours of your waking days in the imaginary world, and then now you get out of the imaginary world, you now start analyzing the imaginary world or documenting the imaginary world. So the more you document it, the more you still lose time you should have even used to maybe even brush your teeth, maybe clean your room, maybe cook yourself a meal, maybe take a walk, maybe go for therapy, maybe call that friend. Like this is the time, because you are already wasting your time in your imaginary world. But now, instead of using the time constructively for something in real life, you are still using the time for something in the imaginary world. So you've stopped daydreaming, but you are now extending it. Like you are managing the daydreaming. So you are addicted to something, but you are now spending time managing the addiction in real life. Like for example, like let's say if you are addicted to alcohol. So let's say after going out and after that you have a hangover for 6 hours. Of course, that's time lost. The same thing now with the daydreaming. You daydream for 3 to 4 hours and then you have 1 to 2 hours of analyzing the daydream. So it will mean that indirectly or indirectly you are spending 5 to 6 hours daydreaming because of this extra. So that's time you should have used to improve your real life. The other dangerous thing about documenting and wanting to understand the contents of your daydream is you get attached, because the storyline can be so amazing and so nice to the point that you end up building a career with it. You may end up becoming a fictional writer. So when something which is robbing you of your real life ends up becoming your career or something which you love doing, it will mean that it will be really, really hard for you to want to stop. It might be painful, but because you have identified yourself with it. When you identify yourself with something, it really, really becomes hard to break free, because you've seen it as who you are. You've seen it as something which is defining you. Like you see these stories you've written, these imaginative stories, as who you are. So when you see something as who you are, it's like the ego is so solid to the point that you, even if someone offers you a free session and then tell you that I want to help you, you will not want the help, because your mind will reject, because you see it as something which is a part of you. So the more you document it, the more you discuss about the contents of your daydream, the more it solidifies the ego, the more you really identify with it. And breaking free from that identity can be a very, very, very hard thing, because it is benefiting you. So when something which has a negative impact in your life ends up benefiting you, let's say it might end up giving you, giving you money, giving you a bit of fame, like you are writing good stories, it will really, really be hard to break, because you are gaining something from it. Of course, it's not really hard if you're motivated, but it becomes a bit harder to really see the negative aspect of it. Yeah. So that is how it is. The other last thing is conclusions. Analyzing, understanding the contents of your daydreams, trying to make sense, you'll end up concluding. And most of your conclusions actually will always be false, because most conclusions you come about will always seek self-preservation. Like your mind, where you are now, how you perceive yourself now as a person, will not want to change. It's a kind of a status quo, and a status quo doesn't want to be changed. So any conclusion you will come up with will always be false, because it will still be keeping you stuck. So you are concluding something, and that is just a conclusion. Actually, in fact, the first thing we normally do in therapy is understanding that a client doesn't really know what the problem is, because if they knew what the problem is, they would have solved it. That's a very, very interesting thing. That's why we always start a process of investigation to really find the root cause of the problem, because all these conclusions are the things which keep us stuck. For example, I may conclude and say that I'm doing this because of that. So every time I'll be using that as an excuse or as something instead of taking action. Same thing with your daydreaming. When you analyze so much, you end up concluding, and the more you conclude, the more you get yourself stuck in a loop of just this because of that, this because of that. That's why it's a very, very, very huge trap when you start analyzing the contents of your daydream, because it's taking away a lot of time you should have used to improve your real life. At the same time, you are forming an identity, or you are identifying yourself with this thing which is solidifying your ego. And then the other thing is, of course, all conclusions will keep you stuck. Hope you found that informative, guys. Until next time, have a nice day.